Tom McGinnis. He called the game last night, Sixers Radio Network. And, of course, you heard we played a couple of the cuts for you earlier. Joel Embiid with a nice turnaround. Dario Saric hitting a three. And, Tom, I guess after 2 years, last night it was kind of worth the wait.
I thought so. Those guys were impressive. I mean, Joe started a little nervous, which, as I said, completely understandably so. But then it seemed like he was so determined when he got back in there to play better, and he did. How about Boston double teaming him in his first preseason game, a game in which he played just 13 minutes, sending Horford and Amir Johnson at him. And I just, that's literally the toe in the water. I think he's got really a bright future. And as I said, everything we've seen over the last year or so is going to translate to the game. And that's how that develops is going to be exciting for all of us to watch.
Yeah, Tom, my takeaway was, okay, yes, he was healthy. Number one, he got up and down the floor, which was tremendous to see. But two, your concern is that he's a stiff, that he's Michael Olowokandi, that he comes out there and he can't walk and chew gum at the same time. He seemed like a guy who got it. He had the instincts. I mean, yeah, he was a little rusty, but once he got in the flow, he seemed like a guy who had a multitude of moves. He had the ability to score from the inside. Like, you saw what you've been waiting for.
Yeah, Mike, nobody thought that, really. I mean, that guy, Michael Olowokandi, had a very limited – I mean, I guess there's some similarities, but none of us thought that. I mean, there's no way. Like I said, I know nothing about basketball if this doesn't translate to being a really good player. In other words, his skill set, what we've seen, and again, limited. I haven't watched him really go 5-on-5 other than in training camp and a little bit here or there at the practice gym. But, no, there's none of that. I'm telling you, he's got it all, and it's just a matter of how it evolves and, the timeline, but he's just amazing to watch. And I don't talk like this about any player. I've seen it. I've watched him. Again, he can, he handles the ball like a juggler for a 7-footer. I've never seen a man run that like that. He can shoot. He can fade. He's going to be a force defensively. He wants it. It's all there, and it's going to be exciting to see. And he's going to get bigger. He's a huge man, but at Stockton, standing next to him, it's not like his arms are ripped like a weightlifter, and his chest, you know what I mean? I think he actually is going to get bigger as he grows. He's only, I believe, 22 years old, and we go back to our own lives, like how much you grow and get stronger in your early years, in your 20s like that. I think he's going to get even bigger, stronger, and more athletic as time goes on.
How about his block on Brown, Tom? Were you impressed with his defensive presence? Because so many times we focus on what he can do on the offensive side of the ball, but how about his D?
No, absolutely. I mean, we all look for rim protectors, and you have one in Nerlens Noel. Well, Joe's going to be that also. And he's got a little – I remember when they I'm going to say conversed with him, but interviewed him prior to the draft, and because he's such an engaging guy, he's got such a nice personality and funny and like that. And I think, it's kind of broached in this manner, like, what about a little nasty? And he got like all serious from what I understand. He's got that gear too. And that Jaylen Brown, you talk about coveting thy neighbor's goods, that kid's going to be phenomenal. That dunk he had late in the game was like off a mini trail. But not when Embiid was there in the first half, and Joe got a piece of that, and I think you're going to see him, protect the paint and be a very big force for the Sixers at that end also.
And, of course, another guy that we wanted to see last night, Dario Saric, I thought he looked like, as advertised, he hit a three, he distributed the ball, he started some breaks. He looked very poised to me for a rookie who never played an NBA game before.
Well, you're right, Pete. Like, first of all, he's played 5 years. That's what I think we forget. We've really paid attention to him as fans for the last 2 years. But they started early. He's played pro for 5 years. It's in his bloodlines. His father was a pro player that played with Drazen Petrovic. It's like he stepped off the plane from Rio and just kept it going. I think, and I didn't follow him. I didn't look at YouTube clips. I was just waiting. Like, we look at him, I'm like, it's Dario. He's here. He was joking when we talked to him on media day that the coaches come up to him and pinch him. Is that you, Dario? Are you really here? And that's, I think, how we feel as fans, too. It's like, it's really him. And then last night we got to see him. And what strikes me is that, as again, I said during the call, he's as tall as Al Horford. he's bigger physically than Horford, somebody we think of as an all-star center in our league. And this guy's got more mobility, although Horford shoots it pretty well now. And Dario, I think, does everything really well. I think one of the concerns a couple of years ago, could he shoot it? Well, he makes his first shot. As you said, he hit another one. And, I don't know that he's a knockdown perimeter shooter, but I think he's going to be a very good player who's only going to get better in that regard. And then he's a really good guy. These guys, there's a lot of good character people with chemistry that comes when you mesh all this personnel from literally all over the country and the world. I think Dario Saric is going to be a fan favorite for the Sixers for years to come.
Tom McGinnis, the radio voice of the Sixers here on 97.3 ESPN. Tom, I guess, the question really becomes now, you saw Embiid, Noel, Okafor didn't play last night, Saric. How does Brett Brown juggle these guys? I mean, last night they're all on minute restrictions, but how do you envision all those guys staying happy? And as you said, there's a lot of good guys, but sitting on the bench gets tough, especially when you're the third pick in the draft, you're a high pick, and, especially a guy like Okafor who was the top guy on the team last year, and now he's taken a much more diminished role, it seems like.
Well, wait a minute now, because we haven't seen him at all. So you can't say he's going to be diminished, because I think Jaleel is going to have an incredible season. I think he's in a great place right now. I've talked to him a number of times over the last few days, and he looks phenomenal. I mean, last year, I think it was difficult for him in terms of coming into Philadelphia. Turns out he was going through a lot of things in the early weeks. And I just think he's going to have a fantastic season. I mean, he's going to benefit greatly by playing alongside Joe. So to your question about how does Coach Brown handle it, I mean, performance. The guys who execute and deliver are going to be the guys that get out there. And it is. But competition breeds a better ball club. These guys are going to be vying for time. Is everyone going to be absolutely happy, hunky-dory? Probably not. That's, as you say, there's only so many minutes in a game. There's only so many minutes per position. But he's going to be able to flip these lines, juxtapose different combinations. And, what a good problem for Brett Brown to have. I mean, quite frankly, in the last 3 years, there were times he didn't have enough talent. And now the talent level has risen at almost every spot. And there's a lot of work to go. I mean, Boston was draining threes and the Sixers are struggling on offense. Things didn't look a whole lot different than they did at some points last year. But this is a work in progress. I mean, it's not going to be like this March. I mean, it's going to take time for a lot of these players who haven't played together, haven't played in the NBA, to mesh as a unit that continues to grow. But, we've preached patience for so long, but it is going to be the case where you're going to need that. But I think now you're going to see real big glimmers of hope and promise and excitement and, wow, what a play and how did he play, all that stuff. And we're really going to enjoy the rise of this group. And part of it's going to be how it all shakes out in terms of your point, Mike, in terms of how does he handle it and where do the Sixers go from here with and who's a part of it down the road.
Yeah, and I think another guy who shouldn't be left out is Holmes. I thought he played Energizer Bunny guy. He played great in the summer, and then last night carried his summer league into last night. I don't know how you keep that guy on the bench for a long period. He showed a lot of energy last night too, but it's a good problem to have, as you mentioned. Let me just get a quick take on the point guards last night, because that's been a huge issue over the last couple of years. TJ, Sergio, and then Paul last night I thought played well.
Right. I don't know that Brandon Paul would be considered a point guard, but like I said jokingly, did we just acquire the microwave? Vinny Johnson has entered the gym. That guy has 15 points in 9 minutes, and he's a scorer and a shooter, and the shooter part is the Sixers. That's been a great need over the last few years. So TJ's been terrific, and, I don't think people want to hear, so there's your starting point guard. Amen. But he has been fantastic, as Coach said, and he concurred. He's drawn a line in the sand. This is what he brings. This is what he's going to do. Sergio Rodriguez, I thought, played way better in the second half. And I thought we saw in the open court, the way he was wheeling and dealing with the basketball, some of that flair that we've seen and he's played in Spain. And so he's going to be good. We haven't seen Bayless yet. He's had a wrist injury, but I think he's going to be a big step up in that regard. Same thing. There's 3 point guards. How is that going to be handled? So, and then long term, that's still probably a position where when you talk about being positionally balanced, the phrase has been used, you need some wing players, you need some knockdown shooters, and I think long term they're going to, need a point guard. When Ben's out there, I think his best role is with that basketball. He's a forward size-wise, but I think his true gift is developing, handling that basketball and getting guys shots and like that. That's what we saw in the summer. And, I think long-term, I don't know if he's going to be your classic point guard, clearly not, but I think he's a guy that can really shore things up in that regard at that position.
All right, you'll see, of course, the Sixers back in action on Thursday night. Sounds like Embiid will be on that 12-minute restriction again, but it'd be nice to see him again out there as he continues to develop throughout this preseason. Tom McGinnis, the Sixers radio voice. You'll hear all the Sixers action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Good catching up, Tom.
Guys, enjoyed it. Thanks.